including manufacturing, which is a huge sector in South Africa, which has not reached the same levels of manufacturing capacity utilization than before COVID. What that means is that if the Reserve Bank were to lower rates, and people were to obviously respond to this by buying more stuff because they'll have $4,000 a month more, depending on how much they reduce them by. And they spend more money, some of it on products made in South Africa, then our factories can actually expand their capacity utilization. And what that means is that they can produce more goods with the same overhead costs per unit. It's very simple maths, this. So the Reserve Bank can actually reduce inflation, cost push inflation, by lowering interest rates. But it is as if they prefer not to look at this data. The other frightening statistic is that the total value of household credit outstanding, which is mainly mortgage loans in South Africa today, is worth less. It's lower in real terms than it was 10 years ago. And this economy has never been able to grow at high sustained rates unless household credit is expanding. So really, quite frankly, I think the Reserve Bank's a fantastic institution. It's just these five, I call them public enemies number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 members of the Monetary Policy Committee. They need to start.
All right, we're losing that connection and we are out of time. Dr. Roelof Botha there, economist at Optimum Investment Group. I want to hear your views on that tomorrow as well. All right, we're going to have to leave it there. And that's time now for the news with Dineo Motaung. Thank you, Sakina. Top stories. Condolence messages pour in for former Tshwane Mayor and Jub's case postponed to Thursday. A very good afternoon. The former COPE national spokesperson Dennis Bloem has paid tribute to the former Tshwane executive mayor Morona Makwarela, who died this morning at the age of 52. Makwarela resigned as mayor almost a year ago after he failed to disclose his insolvency status to the city. He was facing a number of criminal charges and was appearing in the Pretoria Commercial Crimes Court. Bloem says Makwarela was a devoted public servant.
His sudden passing left me speechless. It is sad and painful when anyone dies at such a young age. I want to pass my deepest condolences to his wife, children, family, and his friends. May his soul rest in peace.
The office of the Limpopo Premier says the provincial government spokesperson Ndabe Ramakwela has admitted that he has not been submitting his tax returns to SARS. Ramakwela has been charged with contravening a section of the Tax Administration Act. The National Prosecuting Authority says he is accused of not submitting his income tax returns for 10 years. Ramakwela appeared in the Polokwane Commercial Crimes Court. The Chief of Staff in the office of the Premier, Willie Mosoma.
We can indeed confirm that there is a civil matter between Mr. Ndabe Ramakwela and South African Revenue Services. Mr. Ramakwela, in his testimony, accepted that he did not submit tax returns since 2008, which was corrected between 2017 to 2023. Mr. Ramakwela was never arrested, and documents at our disposal shows that he is a taxpayer in good standing.
In other news, the case of rapper and media personality Molemo Jub Marwahanye has been postponed to Thursday in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court. He handed himself to the Brixton police station last year after a warrant of arrest was issued against him. Jub is facing charges of rape, attempted murder and assault. The case involves 4 complainants for the alleged incidents between 2006 to 2010. Jub was granted bail of 10,000 rand. Lerato Makola reports.
Jub walked inside the court clad in a black t-shirt and a black trouser. The case was postponed to the 25th of April for the purpose of his application towards the bail conditions. He was given another date, which is the 12th of June, for the outcome of the DPP instructions or outcome of his representation. He will remain on bail until his next court appearance. Some of his bail conditions include that he should not communicate with the victims or the complainants or attempt to be in contact with them. The accused has pleaded not guilty to all the charges against him. I'm Lerato Makula, SABC News in Johannesburg.
Moving to the Free State, a second person has died following an attack at the Lonia Farm district in Vicksburg on Sunday night. A 19-year-old woman succumbed to wounds in hospital overnight. This after two men opened fire at two houses of farm dwellers, killing an 11-year-old boy. 6 people were wounded and taken to hospital. 3 are still in a critical condition. The police spokesperson, Mahlomola Karedi, says the men fled in a car after the shooting incident. The motive for the attack has not been established. Lastly, the UN says renewed clashes in a disputed area of northern Ethiopia have displaced more than 50,000 people. Forces from the Tigray and Amhara regions began fighting just over a week ago in Raya Alamata district. The BBC's Kalkidan Yebeltal reports.
The UN has described the humanitarian situation in the Amhara districts of Kobo and Sakota, where many families are seeking shelter, as dire. They have fled reported advances by Tigrayan forces in the Raya Alamata district, claimed for decades by both the Tigray and Amhara regions. The district was part of Tigray until a brutal civil war broke out in late 2020, pitting Tigrayan forces against the federal government. Amhara forces, who fought alongside the federal army, then seized it.
Recapping the top story this hour, the former COPE national spokesperson Dennis Bloom has paid tribute to the former Tshwane executive mayor Morona Makwarela, who died this morning at the age of 52. Headlines at 1:30 for SAFM News. I'm Dino Motaung.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Leading the conversation.
Mama Kite, I heard Rand Water talking on the radio about how dangerous it is for people to encroach on their pipeline servitude.
Yes, those high-pressure Rand Water pipelines are under the ground distributing megalitres of water. When people build on top of the pipeline, Rand Water is unable to conduct maintenance on the pipeline, which has a negative impact on water provision. Pipelines can burst without warning. People could get seriously injured or worse.
Yes, people can die from a bursting pipe. That is why people need to understand that Rand Water servitude is where a Rand Water pipeline is located. If we build our houses or businesses on a Rand Water servitude, then we are encroaching on that servitude. They say if communities want to know whether they've encroached over servitudes, they should look for the Rand Water beacons.
The beacons indicate the presence of Rand Water pipelines under the ground. They're rectangular, made of concrete, are painted either white or blue, and have the Rand Water logo on them.
Let's take a walk around our area to see if there are any Rand Water beacons so that we can also tell the neighbors.
Rand Water, celebrating 120 years of existence and still finding new ways to provide clean, portable bulk water.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
very incomparable late great, oh man, not enough can be said about our girl, right? She's just missed. She is missed, and I think her impact in music still had such a long ways for us to go. But at least we still have some kind of music. At least we have some kind of catalog for us to go to lean on when we miss her, right? We have some place to be. Ndiza is the name of the song, and that is how we kick off the show this afternoon. It's just gone 10 past 1 o'clock. I hope you're having a great day. Yes. We felt like playing a little Zahara. We just, you know what I mean? We just felt like going down that memory lane. But I hope you're having a great day. I hope it's been a good one thus far. The weather is looking fantastic. And no doubt it set your mood and set the tone for what lies ahead today and what needs to be accomplished today. We've got lots coming up by way of conversation. We're going to kick off the show with the folks at Gun Free SA, and we're going to be talking about their proposal for what they are terming as bulletproof parks, particularly in Mitchell's Plain. They're going to tell us more about what that proposal entails, and of course, the impact that it will have on neighborhoods like Mitchell's Plain and other neighborhoods that are heavily affected by gang violence and gun infiltration, uncontrollable gun infiltration. So we'll interrogate this a little bit more. And I wonder, by the way, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts in as far as gun-free spaces? Do you think that gun-free spaces would work in South Africa and in certain neighborhoods, whether they be parks, whether they be spaces, safety zone spaces? Do you think that if we isolated particular locations and made them gun-free spaces, would they work? Would they have some kind of impact and effect on communities that are having to deal with uncontrolled gun violence, uncontrolled violence every single day? So you can always share with us your perspective on that on 086 000 2032 or 061 410 4107. Also coming up today, we're looking at stages, pages, screens, and more. We're going to dip into a theatre production that's part of Bloemfontein's Parkhof, which they are presenting a play called Coal Yard, and we'll be chatting to the folks about that. The director of Coal Yard is going to be with us on the show. On the other side of 2 o'clock, it's Tuesday. We're taking a look at issues around health and wellness, and we're going to look at what's called seasonal affective disorder. And what that is, I think I understand it to be what some might colloquially and casually refer to as seasonal depression, which affects people in winter. Right? Yes. And I know that there's a lot that we don't understand around depression. And so I can only but imagine that then when we start talking around seasonal depression, it might even get a little bit more confusing for those of us who've never experienced depression or never engaged depression. So that conversation is coming up on the other side of 2, and I'll tell you more about what's coming up in that second hour of the show. Right now, though, we're going to kick off that conversation with Gun Free South Africa, and I wonder what your thoughts are in as far as implementing or identifying what would be essentially gun-free zones in communities that have high penetration of gun violence. Do you think that would work? Do you think that is something communities could rally behind and really protect and make and safeguard and make sure that if we say that this park is a gun-free park, that it remains a gun-free park? 086 000 2032 is the number you can call us on, or 061 410 4107 is the WhatsApp line that you can send us a voice note on. Let's take a quick break and then we come back with Adele.
Business owners, don't waste your time searching for an employee that has it all. They do not exist. But I will tell you what does exist. The Kia K2700 Workhorse. It's versatile, powerful, and reliable. It also arrives on time every day. Save your cash with no deposit and only pay 5,799 Rand per month. It's the business partner you've been waiting for. Up your game with the Kia K2700 Workhorse. Visit kia.co.za for more. T's and C's apply.
Kia,
Movement that inspires.
DA leader John Steenhuisen. What qualifies the DA to run the country?
Firstly, we do not tolerate corruption. And where the DA governs, life is better. And that is why millions of South Africans are moving to DA governments. We still have much more to do. But in the past year, the Western Cape created over 300,000 new jobs and is working every day to become load shedding free. We can bring this DA difference to the rest of South Africa, but only if you vote for the DA.
This political party advertisement was paid for by the political party concerned. The views expressed in this advertisement are those of the political party and not those of the SABC.
Molweni babukeli be-Kids Newsroom, igama lam ngumhlonhlo Buhle Kelepa, izwakazi yasemampondomiseni, and we cannot wait to see you on SABC2 right here where you belong every single Monday at 4:30. See you there.
Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
All right, it is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. Now, earlier this month, the non-profit organization Gun Free SA shared a proposal for something that's never been done before, and they are proposing what would be essentially a bulletproof park for children in Mitchell's Plain. And at face value, I mean, for some people, the concept is a little bittersweet, with many South Africans openly acknowledging both sides of this coin on this one. Hard in the sense that, you know, we find ourselves in a position where we need to deploy every kind of measure to protect our children who ultimately get caught up in the crossfire. But also on the same side, what does it say about us as a society and the communities that we live in, that we have been, you know, run over by violence of this magnitude? And we thought we'd catch up with the Gun Free SA director, Adele Kristen, joins me now on the line. How are you doing this morning, Adele?
Good morning, Bridget. And that was a great introduction.
Thank you.
And I think taking the conversation where it needs to go. So I mean, you're coming up with some of the ideas. So I'm looking forward to this conversation and a great invitation to your listeners, because I think part of the purpose is to be saying, what are some of the solutions to making sure that children can play safely in parks?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we are just simply jumping off something that you've put on the table and that you guys at Gun Free South Africa, as well as the communities in which you engage, have had some time to chew on this, right? Undoubtedly, we're finding ourselves in this, excuse the pun, in this sort of crossfire where we now have to engage these conversations, because statistically we know how the country has become overrun by guns, particularly illegal guns, in recent years.
And that's exactly why we're putting this proposal on the table in this moment. Over the last 4 to 5 years, we've seen unprecedented levels of gun violence in this country, and particularly in communities like Mitchell's Plain. But we're seeing it in places like Nyanga, Khayelitsha, Ivory Park, Tembisa. It's across the country. 34 people are shot and killed every single day in this country. And if we look at the murders, 3 children are murdered every day. So our children are not safe, and they're not safe from flying bullets. And so that's one. And I guess over the last year, particularly in Cape Flats communities, we've just seen the surge of children getting caught in the crossfire. And no one seems to be paying any attention, because in some ways, I mean, we know what some of the solutions are, is that a park like this, the Bulletproof Park, I mean, on one hand, it's a crazy idea. It's, why would you want to confine your kids in a level 8 bulletproof glass where they're confined for several hours a day? But then what happens when they leave the park and go home, or when they walk from school to home? They're not protected in that moment. We've chosen a park because that's often exactly where children are playing, and often gangs are hanging out on either side of the park. So it's a very kind of deliberate location. But, when are we going to start having the conversation about protecting them from the guns? Because this park is going to protect them from the bullets for a limited period of time. But it's in a way, is this just a big Band-Aid, or is this actually the solution? And we've been grappling with that. And we're now in the stage of having discussions with a range of stakeholders, which includes criminologists as well as community leaders, as we're grappling with, is this the best possible solution?
Yeah.
And we're not sure.
Yeah.
But I think you're pointing some way to the idea of kind of corridors of safety. So, for example, we work closely with the ECD sector, and we run workshops for ECD leaders and creches and the parents on making the ECD center a gun-free zone. And we've got many of those. Particularly in the Western Cape, and that works well. Can we do that with a park without the level 8 bulletproof glass? We're not sure.
And that is the question on the table. And I'm glad, Adele, you also bring up something that I was going to ask, and I think we'll double back to what the nuts and bolts of the proposal look like that you're putting on the table. But you bring up something that I was going to ask you, that I wonder, as much as a gun-free park would work, in safeguarding a particular geography of a community, but when kids have to come out of that environment and still sort of go back into the normal realities of their lives, and as you say, walking to and from the park, walking to and from school, they're still very much in the crosshairs of harm. And I wondered then, how do we sort of, yes, on the one hand, have these conversations and maybe even get to a place where we implement a bulletproof park, but also extend that kind of thinking and consciousness into communities so we can widen the space of safety for children?
You kind of hit the nail on the head. So we would have a multi-pronged approach to reducing gun violence, and in particular now focusing on keeping children safe.
Yeah.
And there are really two things we do. The one is when we're working with the ECD centers, it includes the parents, it includes the children, and of course it includes the teachers. What happens through that process is that community of people, they define the vision and the policy. And so it's a process of ownership where people say, this is what we want a gun-free zone to look like in this ECD center.
Yeah.
And then they talk about, how do we begin to expand that so we create zones of safety? Can we talk to the school opposite? Can we talk to the spaza shop down the road? And so it opens up that conversation to begin doing kind of corridors of safety, zones of safety. But it has to be, we come in as a resource.
Yeah.
It has to be community driven and led. And it has to be owned so that people have a sense that they are getting involved in making their community safer. But the other thing that has to happen is SAPs have to come to the party. This is an important community-led initiative. But if SAPs aren't on the ground, recovering these guns, getting them out of circulation, we can't have the one without the other. And so that's then really going to some of the root causes. And right now, even though at local level, when we are working with communities and doing gun-free zones, there is an interaction with the local police station. They need to know that there are these designated gun-free zones in their precinct. But in terms of sort of hard SAPs, priorities and actions, we just do not see any action and seriousness about actually dealing with some of the root causes here.
Yeah. Talk to us, Adele, about, the proposal that you put forward for a bulletproof park. Some might want to know, well, what does that look like in reality and practice? Are we talking a physical structure? I heard you mention a level 8 bulletproof glass containment.
Yeah. So, yes, we're talking about a physical glass structure. So we've got the proposal and we've got the specs, and it is a virtual. And people can go to the Bulletproof Park website if they want to see how we've kind of conceptualized this. It obviously has a lot of fun things in the inside. It's got swings, slides, jungle gym, like really cool equipment. And then it has all these extraordinary features of a panic button. It has cameras inside, and it has facial recognition. So it only recognizes children's faces.
Okay.
And then it has this level 8 bulletproof glass surrounding it. It's 24, I think it's about 24 by 24 meters, and can accommodate 24 children at any one time. Now, many of the features in the park were inspired by our thinking of what kind of what would a safe community look like. So, for example, the panic button would be that, if something happens, that someone can press the panic button and there will be an immediate response. That's the kind of society we'd like to see, that if there is a crime being committed, that our police are there on the double. They're there straight away. They apprehend the perpetrators. They recover the gun if a gun is being used. So it's also trying to kind of, recreate and get a discussion going on the sort of features of a safe community that we'd like, which would include a really responsive and effective police.
Absolutely. 086 000 2032 is our studio line. 061 410 4107. That is our WhatsApp line if you'd like to send through a WhatsApp voice note, or of course you can drop us a message. You are more than welcome to do so as we have this conversation with Adele Kristen, and we're talking around their proposal for a bulletproof park. As you heard, it would be a level 8 bulletproof park, virtually making bullets impenetrable when you are inside this safety dome for children in neighborhoods like Mitchell's Plain. Do you think, as you listen to our conversation, that such ideas can be implemented and would have an impact within South African society? Or do you think that maybe we should be thinking around gun-free zones in some of our communities? And what are your thoughts on that, in just the feasibility of community being able to come together and decide, when you look at the makeup of communities like Mitchell's Plain with, the sort of gang dominance that's there, do you think that we are even capable as society to come together from opposite ends and decide that these are the spaces that we need to make safe for our children and have everybody commit to it? 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. It's just gone 1:30, and I think Danae Mutawung is standing by with the headline news. Thank you very much, Bridget. A very good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 1:30. The Tourism Deputy Minister, Fish Mahlalela, says the tourism sector is bouncing back to pre-COVID-19 levels. In other news, the former COPE national spokesperson, Dennis Bloom, has paid tribute to the former Tshwane executive mayor, Morunwa Makwarela, who died this morning at the age of 52. And police in Bushbuck Ridge in Mpumalanga are monitoring a violent service delivery-related protest in the area. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Our lines are open on 061-410-4107 as we engage our conversation with Adele. As you've heard, they have also been testing out and come to agreements with communities around ECDs and particular school areas in as far as creating corridors of safety, gun-free zones where violence is at a minimal, if non-existent at all, for the safety of children. In some places and instances, I would presume that this goes well until maybe something happens and then it doesn't go so well, or maybe there's been an ability to also maintain it. If you've got the community, as you heard Adele say, driving it in the community, leading it, and then obviously all the respective structures, societal structures, then coming together to support it. Let's go to WhatsApp and hear what is on your mind.
Why do we waste our time and efforts by trying to come with a theoretical experience, bulletproof park? Do you think those schools where kids are shot at around are not bulletproof? Or we can say by words, just bulletproof, then they will just become as such? No, the issue is there's no consequence management. There is no crime intelligence. There's no policing. There is no South Africa Service Intelligence, SASA. There is no military intelligence. Those people just sit and happen, do next, sitting and doing nothing when the nation is going down. South Africa is becoming a failed state. South Africa is becoming a hot spot where everybody do as they wish. We are leaderless. Can't we see what Rwanda is doing, what Singapore is doing, what Vietnam is doing, what Botswana is doing? The consequence management. Why do we have soldiers who sit and do nothing in the camp all day? Release them to the camps, release them to the schools in the street, retrain them to join the police and help them.
Good day, Bridget. I'm listening to Gun-Free South Africa's proposal, but children don't live and sleep in a park, do they? What do we need in South Africa? We need effective policing. Right now, we've got one police officer for every 436 South African citizens. You need to increase capacity in policing, employ people that are competent and fit for the job, employ technology like shot spotter and predictive policing so that you know exactly where crime is going to happen in future. You can predict where crime is going to happen in future. Then again, you've got former convicts and people that are being put on parole, that have been convicted for violent crimes and gun-related crimes. Put ankle monitors on those people so that you can monitor their movements. That's the solutions that are needed. Building a park is not going to solve anything. How many children is it going to accommodate? Come on now.
And I guess maybe the callers, share similar sentiment, Adele, in the sense that what I'm getting from them is let's perhaps try and deal more aggressively and proactively with the root cause of the issue than trying to deal with the symptoms of the issue that might not necessarily have a far-reaching, as he says at the end, how many children can it accommodate at a given time? And you did sort of give us a rough estimate of that, 24 to 28. I wonder what your thoughts are on what the callers have shared.
So one of the things that's really struck me is that both callers really came to the issue of the kind of policing we've got, of lack of crime intelligence, of lack of consequences for behavior. So I think those are definitely some of the issues. So, for example, Gun-Free South Africa has been calling for the establishment of specialist firearms units, which are, dedicated police who have the resources and the capacity to really go after the illegal guns. That's absolutely necessary. The park is one suggestion, one proposal that's on the table to really look at what are some of the other things we need to be doing. And I think that it's clear that we need better policing. So, quite a common theme through those responses, and great that people, are saying it's limited, and it's absolutely limited. And so that's what, we're in the process now of doing the feasibility study, which we hope by early May we will be ready to report on. And we're also having ongoing discussions, in particular in Mitchell's Plain with community leaders, and thinking, is this feasible? On one hand, we don't want to, we don't want to have to build the park because we're saying it's limited in its impact.
Yeah.
But is this crazy idea one way to deal with a situation that is completely out of control? So it's a serious proposal on the table to really try and address an incredibly serious issue, which again, very few people are talking about. And if this discussion, even your callers are beginning to grapple with, well, what are the solutions? Then getting this is a conversation we need to be having as a nation.
Absolutely.
And if we can begin at local level to find solutions, that's fantastic.
Absolutely. I mean, we speak a lot on the show around, just yesterday we were having conversation around innovation and creativity for the purpose of finding solutions to our social issues. And I think I agree with you completely because, sometimes having what some might perceive as the craziest, wild, bad ideas opens up the door for us to acknowledge that we have a problem. And we are trying to now attack it from a sort of multitude of angles because there's no one singular approach. A whole host of things have to work together at the same time to get to the resolution that we'd ideally like to have. Let me ask you this by way of just, when you're talking around feasibility study, by way of costings, in an ideal world, I can't imagine that building a structure, a bulletproof structure, would be a cheap exercise. I mean, when one thinks about just the cost of bulletproofing your car, bullet arming your car, it runs in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, the initial costing is 10 million.
Sure. Is that for one unit?
So this is huge. That's for one unit. But then you have to start looking at, so this is also a big discussion we're having inside Gun Free, is this is prohibitive. It's what else could we be doing with that 10 million? But we're also looking at then the cost of gun violence in this country.
Yeah.
And that's kind of billions of rands every year. So the burden on the health system of people who get shot and injured and taken to hospital, and this is just, across state hospitals, runs into the billions and takes a significant proportion of our health budget every single year. So that's an important conversation to be having. What does it cost, to have a specialist firearms unit that goes after the source? We have to start weighing up the cost, because it is prohibitive, and we've had a couple of I guess service providers approach us wanting to talk to us about helping maybe source cheaper materials, etc. So this is an ongoing conversation, and I think it would be one of the factors certainly that would make this not the best option and not the most feasible way. Because if we're saying that this is just one park in one community, if you need to look at a model of replicating, isn't it better to be putting one's energy into kind of multi-dimensional approach to the issue, getting people mobilized and involved in looking at ways to protect children from school to home. A couple of years ago, there was this, this safety bus and mothers, women walking their children to school. Not a virtual bus, an actual bus of people chaperoning kids to school. It's those kinds of things that we need to be looking at. So, again, asking the question, is this feasible? Is this the best possible solution? We know what one of the most effective solutions are, and that's to get guns off the street and out of our homes. But right now, there's no movement there. This is a desperate situation, and is this a crazy idea to deal with a desperate situation.
Yeah.
It may be, yeah. But I guess to say again that we are putting this on the table. We're looking at what other options are, what more effective options are, because this park has significant limits. And yet, on the other hand, it will protect some children for a limited period of time during the day while they play.
Yeah. Adele, we appreciate the time with you. That was Adele Kristen, Gun-Free SA's director, walking us through their proposal for a potential bulletproof park and looking at maybe if, the go-ahead and the fundraising happens for this and the ability to implement it, testing it out in Mitchell's Plain. As you heard the numbers there, 10 million would buy one sort of park dome, which can be accessed between 24 to 28 kids at the time, with all kinds of safety and security features in there. But the broader conversation is, that's just one of the things that's been tabled. That's just one of the sort of out there ways that they're exploring to engage this conversation around how do we make our communities safer for children. And we asked you, do you think that maybe gun-free zones would be something that communities could come to an agreement with and have the ability to oversee and safeguard those and make sure that they commit to them? And Adele saying that, in some areas, they are sort of corridors of safety, around ECD centers and schools where there's a commitment on all sides to say, let's safeguard just these corridors, these passages of safety for our children. 086 000 2032, 061 410 4107. That is our WhatsApp line. We'd love to know what is on your mind. Let's take a quick break and then we come back on the other side of this with stages, pages, screens, and more.
Freedom Month on SAFM. The month in which we had our first democratic election 30 years ago. This Freedom Month, as we reflect on the progress made thus far, we continue to commemorate the selfless sacrifices made for our democracy and freedom. SAFM, leading the conversation. Stages, pages, screens, and more with Bridget Masinga.
All right, let's get into all things theatre with Simtembele, Prince Lamna, who's the director of Coal Yard. This is a play that's forming part of Parkhoff's itinerary out in Bloemfontein, and it follows the events that mark the transition from boyhood to manhood in the life of Tsepo. But he's here to tell us a bit more about it. How are you doing this afternoon, Prince?
Good afternoon, and to the listeners. I think it is sharp.
You think we're sharp? Okay, I won't ask you why is it just a thought, but as long as you are sharp. So the Performing Arts Centre of the Free State Parkhoff has partnered with the Amaka Theatre Foundation, and they're showcasing this dramatic production with what they call the most touching experiences. Opened up on the 18th, and it's running all the way. Wait, has it finished already, Prince? It can't have finished.
Yes, already finished at Parkhoff's. It was just a 3-day season. So that's basically it.
Oh, so it finished at Parkhoff, but it could be mushrooming up somewhere else like the Market Theatre.
Absolutely.
I got you. Okay. Tell us a little bit more about Coal Yard.
Oh, yes. Coal Yard basically, carries such, an interesting history in a sense that in this installment that we just did at Parkhoff's, we were short of 2 soldiers of, the team who sadly passed away a few years ago. That would be my co-director, Ohenze Budibe, and one of the actors, Tsidiso Mofadi. So you can see, basically, we looked at this process or this installment as some sort of, a celebration of those 2 gentlemen. So coming back to the play itself, Coal Yard, Goliath basically, it looks into something very interesting. If we were to turn, the tables in terms of, GBV, and in this case, rape, in Goliath's situation, a young man, Tepo, unfortunately gets sodomized by, his biological father, Patrick Mokwena. So Tepo ends up saying, you know what, enough is enough. I'm going to, leave home and go find a refuge somewhere else. So he leaves and finds refuge at Brasamson's, shack somewhere within Kwakwa, because we are using Kwakwa as an environment, Kwakwa as a real environment. However, the story is fictional.
Yes.
But yes.
And what I think I also sort of appreciate, Prince, is that oftentimes the story of, the young South African male in particular who finds themselves in a situation of sexual abuse, if we are being specific, is one that's not necessarily told far and wide. And this play, Courtyard, the protagonist Tepo, that really is the center of his story, is having to grapple with issues around sexual abuse.
Yes. And we are not also, it needs to be cleared that, by, raising this kind of issues, we are not undermining what, the world has become in terms of the world realizing what it is in terms of LGBTQI+. We are not undermining that at all. We are not pushing any agenda. But we are just interested in seeing, this happening to this poor young boy, Tepo. So I hope that it's clear. Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, those conversations live, I think, simultaneously, right? I think with our sensitivities and consciousness also, it's very important for us to as you say, also in this regard, not undermine the story of the young boy who is being sexually abused, because that is very much an important story alongside other stories that affect a whole host of communities. And let's talk about it. How was the reception? I'm not too familiar, and I said to Napo Mashiane about a month ago that I'm not too familiar with the theater scene in Bloemfontein, and my perceptions of Bloem is that perhaps it can be a bit on the what's the word again? The word is missing me now. Conservative time. There we go. It can be a bit on the conservative side of society. So I wonder, what was the reception with a piece like this?
Look, this time around, I think we all anticipated, quite a lot, because we were coming second round, doing the second round.
Yeah.
So I don't think the reception, to be quite honest, was what we anticipated in terms of the audience. However, the little that we got in terms of audience, I think it was quite a positive experience, because others had to relive their imagination. Others saw it, 18 years ago, and seeing it this time around with these actors now, in their adulthood, married, having children and so on and so forth, with a more matured kind of, execution in their acting. So that sort of also kind of, added value to how I think the audience received it in Bloemfontein. I don't know if that is clear.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, listen, we wish you the very best, and especially since now we know it's the second sort of installment of this piece, Coal Yard, which means that it's consistently evolving and consistently even itself introspecting, and reflecting really the state of mind and the state of society at that particular time when it comes to stage. I appreciate the time with you this afternoon. That was Director of Coal Yard, which formed part of the Parkhof itinerary, Sitembele Prince Mlama, joining me today. It's just gone at 10 to 2 o'clock. Yes, as we do live radio, and then the sort of the English just flies away, and you're like, what is that word for conservative again, right? It happens to the very best of us. It's time for us to get into Kids Corner, and then we'll come back on the other side of this and continue the conversation. We're looking at matters of health and wellness coming up on the other side, and we're going to get a better understanding around seasonal depression. That's just the sort of casual term around this diagnosis. We're going to be unpacking seasonal affective disorder, which affects quite a number of people, particularly around the winter time. And we're going to be joined in that conversation by Dr. Karisha, who is with the Life Health Care Group.
Living your best life on the Full Circle. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello everybody, my name is Tulifa Moeng. If I had the opportunity to choose a year supply of toys or books, I wouldn't go for toys, but if it was books, I'd definitely go for books that speak about the economy, because that's what I really love. I'd also read books like inspiring stories, and of course, maybe an action-packed book. I don't really ask for many books from my parents because I'm not gonna lie, I'm always on my phone. So I don't really read a lot of books anymore. But I do like reading for enjoyment, because I'm also very good at reading, because I also love talking and I'm also engaging, and books help me with that. I'd say I buy maybe a book once in every 6 months. The benefits of reading books for children is that it can improve their literature, can also improve their social skills, their engagement skills, and how they think, and can also help them improve in their vocabulary.
Hello everyone, my name is Lorraine Moyo. I'll be turning 12 very soon. If I were to choose between toys and books, I would choose toys as a year supply, and the book that I would pick is Stork Diaries, because that is my favorite book. No, I never ask for new books from my parents or guardians, because I have a library at my school, so I can take out books for 2 weeks and return them on the day I'm supposed to return them. Yes, I do love reading for enjoyment. It gives me a safe environment and gives me more knowledge on words that I do not understand. I don't usually buy books to read because I use the library, but very often I do. Like right now, I already got 2 books from the library to read, which are very big books, Stork Diaries and Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I think the benefits of reading is that it gives you more knowledge on things. It also helps you mentally and how to control your actions. Thank you so much for listening to me. I hope you have a wonderful day ahead of you. Thank you.
I would choose reading a storybook because reading makes you smarter and teaches you new words, teaches you new stuff. Sometimes I get pushed by my dad to read, but most of the time I just read by myself.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kawagazi and my surname is Mayana. I'm 10 years old. To be honest, I would read a book. The reason I would read a book is because I love learning and reading. Reading stories is good and fun because education is important. Education is what makes you smart and pass your grades. Doing good in school is important because your teacher might just make you skip a grade because of being very smart. And stories are fun, not boring. Unless there is a boring story, but I've never ever heard of one. And there is a child who finished university at the age of 10. He was young. Can you believe it? Wow, so impressive. The thing I would do would be I would watch TV, dance, and listen to music. So I also get time to play with my family members. And my favorite book is The Band of Friends. And the author of the book is Nick Warburton. Thank you.
Good day. My name is Raflupela Ratogwa. I am 11 years old. I'd rather choose to read a book than not do anything, because when you read, you gain more knowledge and skills and learn more things. I read on my own because it's fun and interesting. And I don't get pushed to read by my elders because it is what I love.
Greetings, my name is Mutizima Peta. Do you ever ask for new books from your parents or guardians? Yes, I do. I like reading fairy tales and fun stories. I buy 7 books in 5 months if I want to read for enjoyment.
Hi guys! Today let's visit the wonderful world of books. Let me pose a question to you. Are you a fan of reading? Well, get excited because today marks World Book and Copyright Day. This special occasion is dedicated to books and the talented individuals who create them. Books take us on an incredible journey, educate us on various subjects, and allow us to unleash our creativity. But first, let's talk about copyright. Copyright serves as a set of rules that determine who has the authority to control the usage of a book. It is very important as it enables authors to safeguard their efforts and ensure they receive recognition for their narratives. Now let's delve into why reading is truly fantastic. Through reading, we have the ability to transport ourselves to any place and assume any identity. We can explore enchanting realms, encounter fascinating characters, and gain insights to diverse cultures. Reading also aids in expanding our vocabulary and enhancing our language proficiency. Moreover, it's incredibly enjoyable. There are different book genres to choose from, including adventure tales, humorous comics, and informative factual books. Regardless of your interests, there's a book waiting for you. So how can you engage in reading and relish the experience? Well, you can pay a visit to your local library and borrow books at no cost. Libraries offers a wide array of books suitable for children all ages, along with engaging activities like story sessions. And let's not overlook audiobooks. You can enjoy listening to narrated stories while engaging in school activities or unwinding at home. Remember, reading isn't confined to World Book and Copyright Day. It's an activity you can savor every day. Therefore, ensure you locate time to pick up a book, locate a cozy spot, and let your imagination run wild. Additionally, once you finish reading, don't hesitate to share your favorite stories with your friends and family. Reading is a precious gift that enables us to embark on a new adventure and explore fresh concepts. Let's commemorate World Book and Copyright Day by immersing ourselves in a captivating book.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.6 FM in Bloemfontein.
Top stories: SA tourism shows recovery post-COVID and Jub's case postponed to Thursday. With the news, I am Dino Modaung. Good afternoon. The Tourism Deputy Minister Fish Mahlalela says the tourism sector is bouncing back to pre-COVID-19 levels. Mahlalela was addressing the media after the launch of the continent's biggest tourism event, Africa Travel Indaba. The three-day event will start on the 13th of next month at the Durban International Convention Centre. Mahlalela says the country is also contributing to the development of intra-African air travel.
Strategic partnership in the aviation and hospitality sector have also contributed to this growth. An example, the code-share agreement between Kenyan Airways and South African Airways, which established a direct flight between Nairobi and major South African cities, has enhanced accessibility and convenience for travelers, thereby stimulating tourism between these two countries. In addition to this, several new routes have been launched here in South Africa since the last Africa's Travel Indaba.
Police in Bushbuck Ridge in Mpumalanga are monitoring a violent service delivery-related protest in the area. Residents had been blockading the R40 road linking Mpumalanga and Limpopo with burning tires. The provincial police spokesperson Donald Mdluli says officers are in Castile and Cottondale near Aikenhook. The protesters are reported to have torched an emergency medical services vehicle yesterday. Mdluli says no arrests have been made following the incident.
Police, however, are in the area to monitor the situation, and also we got some reports that some of the protesters are using trucks to block the road. So the Provincial Commission of the SAPS in Mpumalanga has urged members of the public to refrain from damaging infrastructure and also properties during the protests. They do have the rights to protest, however, that should be done within the ambits of the law.
In other news, the former COPE national spokesperson Dennis Bloom has paid tribute to the former Tshwane executive mayor Morona Makwarela, who died this morning at the age of 52. Makwarela resigned as mayor almost a year ago after he failed to disclose his insolvency status to the city. He was facing a number of criminal charges and was appearing in the Pretoria Commercial Crimes Court. Bloom says Makwarela was a devoted public servant.
His sudden passing left me speechless. It is sad and painful when anyone dies at such a young age. I want to pass my deepest condolences to his wife, children, family, and his friends. May his soul rest in peace.
In a separate court matter, the case of rapper and media personality Molemo Jub Marwahanye has been postponed to Thursday in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court. He handed himself to the Brixton police station last year after a warrant of arrest was issued against him. Jub is facing charges of rape, attempted murder and assault. The case involves 4 complainants for the alleged incidents between 2006 to 2010. Jub was granted bail of 10,000 rand. Lerato Makola reports.
Jub walked inside the court clad in a black t-shirt and a black trouser. The case was postponed to the 25th of April for the purpose of his application towards the bail conditions. He was given another date, which is the 12th of June, for the outcome of the DPP instructions or outcome of his representation. He will remain on bail until his next court appearance. Some of his bail conditions include that he should not communicate with the victims or the complainants or attempt to be in contact with them. The accused has pleaded not guilty to all the charges against him. I'm Lerato Makula, SABC News in Johannesburg.
Lastly, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is travelling to Poland, where they promised to pledge more money towards supporting Ukraine in the war. He will meet his Polish counterpart Donald Tusk. Sunak will also offer more air defences to Poland, which shares an almost 500-kilometre border with Ukraine. The BBC's Chris Mason has the details.
Rishi Sunak wants to emphasise the UK's role in defending Ukraine. The focus today from the Prime Minister is the extra support for Ukraine, more ammunition, air defences, drones and engineering support. He'll meet too with Jens Stoltenberg of the NATO Defence Alliance and offer to deploy an RAF squadron to carry out policing of Poland's skies for NATO next year.
Recapping the top story this hour, the Tourism Deputy Minister Fish Mahlalela says the tourism sector is bouncing back to pre-COVID-19 levels. Mahlalela was addressing the media after the launch of the continent's biggest tourism event, Africa Travel in Durban. Headlines at 2:30 for SAFM News. I'm Dinamo Daung.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.2 FM in Tohoyandou. Freedom Month on SAFM. The month in which we had our first democratic election 30 years ago. This Freedom Month, as we reflect on the progress made thus far, we continue to commemorate the selfless sacrifices made for our democracy and freedom. SAFM, leading the conversation.
The biggest public employment program on the continent, the Expanded Public Works Program, EPWP, is celebrating 20 years, and President Cyril Ramaphosa will unveil Phase 5 of the rebranded EPWP, aimed at creating millions of new work opportunities for poor households. Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, Sihle Zikalala, along with the Eastern Cape stakeholders, invites all residents to follow the events on social media on April the 24th from 8 a.m. The Expanded Public Works Program, improving, changing people's lives and building better communities.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
There's melodies in me, yeah, saying this is who I am. Ndingaba intoni na ngaphandle kwakho mina. There ain't no way to show you. There ain't no way to show you. So
It is Zonke. Oh, you almost caught me mid-chorus there. Zonke coming through. Love this particular song. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, leading the conversation right here on SAFM. We're going to get into a conversation in just a matter of moments with Dr. Karisha, just trying to get her on the line to help us understand seasonal affective disorder. Have you ever heard of winter depression, by the way? I've heard of it because pardon me, a friend of mine is diagnosed with, I don't know what the official term, I'm just assuming it would be seasonal affective disorder, but yes, she is diagnosed as having winter depression. And literally you see sort of the personality shift and you see, the characteristics of someone who is depressive play out with her quite intensely around the winter time. But I said, as much as I know somebody in my life who has been diagnosed with winter depression, I'm also very much, I think like most people, unless you've had a first-hand experience of depression, or unless you've had someone really close to you who has been diagnosed with depression and you've sort of walked the journey alongside them, it's oftentimes one of those diagnoses that a lot of us don't quite grasp and understand, and we try to learn more and more about it, with each opportunity. And hopefully today, that is exactly what we are going to be doing. We also, by the way, in this hour, are going to be commemorating World Book Day with the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. We're going to be talking with the CEO of READ, yes, READ, R-E-D, about this particular initiative, World Book Day. I tell you, something's going on. As a broadcaster, it's the worst thing. Some days, things just roll out of your tongue and out of your mouth. And on other days, it just seems as though everything is working against you. And this is one of those days. I'm just closing it because you and I are in conversation, and so you can ultimately hear that there is a struggle happening today between my mouth, my tongue, and myself. It's not working with me. But we shall endure nonetheless. It just happens from time to time. You know what I mean? Let's take a quick break here, and then we'll come back on the other side of this and continue our conversation.
The Saturday Play.
I don't know what you're talking about now, Pramike.
You think you're clever, ne? Look at me. Huh? Are you happy?
Hey, Pramike, I have to go now.
You're not going anywhere, son.
Come on, Pramike. Catch me, on the Saturday Play. Stop twisting my arm, Pramike.
I want to teach you a lesson, sonny.
Pramike, please, man. Just leave me alone, Pramike.
Hey, sonny.
Catch the Saturday Play between 9 and 10 p.m. Only on SAFM.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Formula One correspondent, Prince Ndiweni, up Max Verstappen getting back to winning ways in the last Grand Prix after the disappointment of Melbourne for him. The other drivers are saying that he's going to run away with it.
There is something to grab onto there because remember, we haven't seen significant upgrades come to these cars. We're still within that threshold of the first 6 or 7 races of the season, and this is that window where teams generally try and push it towards the end of that 6 or 7 race duration period to actually introduce significant upgrades. And if you've seen the kind of performance we've been able to pull out for that significant upgrade, it kind of tells you that it's not a great omen for those competitors.
Top Sport on SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
We're not even talking about the total number of cases. We're just saying 90 cases were struck off the roll because of police negligence.
Currently, we do monitor cases, and we do that specifically not to meet a tick box,
but to ultimately ensure that where there's inefficiencies, where docket Ashraf is not at court, ultimately leading to a case being struck off the court roll, denying that particular survivor, that victim, the necessary help that they need, it ultimately leads to secondary victimization. And for that particular period, 89 gender-based violence, including rape cases, were ultimately struck off the court roll.
That's where we can leave it. Regan Allen, MEC for Police Oversight and Community Safety in the Western Cape.
The National Pulse, weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m. Arts, culture, and robust conversations with Bridget Masinga.
It is the full circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. It's just gone 2:15 as we approach the final hour of the show. Wondering, we were trying to get a hold of Dr. Carisha Query, who is our guest this afternoon, and she is the operations manager for the clinical directorate within Life Healthcare. And of course, as the days become shorter and the winter gets colder, there is a form of depression that arises, or that, I don't know if arises is the right word in this instance, and apologies if it's not, but there's a form of depression that we then sort of hear a lot of people talk about, and casually they might make reference to it as being seasonal depression, and we thought we'd invite Dr. Carisha to help us understand this a little bit better. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Carisha. How are you doing? Dr. K? I'm not too sure if Dr. Carisha has got us on mute or... All right, let's take another break here as we try and figure out what is transpiring with our lines.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. You are listening to The Full Circle.
We are trying again, and hopefully this time we have connection to Dr. Carisha. How are you doing, Dr. Carisha?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for the time. All right. Let's maybe try and understand when we talk seasonal affective disorder. What are we talking about? I'm presuming that is the clinical and correct term for what some make reference to as winter depression.
Yes, thanks, Bridget. Seasonal affective disorder is a mental health condition, and it is described as an episode of depression that occurs annually at the same time each year, and it is associated mainly with the winter months. It is more commonly known as the winter blues, but from a medical perspective, it is when the symptoms become significant enough that they are actually causing a significant change in the behavior and mood of an individual.
So to understand that, it probably is likely a little bit worse in the sense of symptoms than just having the normal Monday blues or the normal rainy day blues where you're not quite in the mood that day.
Correct. That's absolutely correct, Bridget. So the term winter blues is generally associated with a short period of feeling sad and tired and depressed. But seasonal affective disorder is actually a medical diagnosis where for a protracted period of time, so for weeks and even for months, especially over the winter period, a person may feel symptoms of extreme fatigue, extreme sadness that changes their behavior, excessive sleepiness and sleeping more than they usually do, having food cravings more than they usually do, and overeating. And then to the extent that other people notice that and it affects their mood and their behaviors. They may also become quite snappy, they may become antisocial with people around them and really isolate themselves within their environment. And so it is more than just a winter blue that happens for a few days over a cold period. It is really a protracted period of time.
Yeah. And what is it, Dr. Karisha, about winter? Is it the season that is the reason for these symptoms emerging? How do we sort of connect the two?
Yeah, there's two types of seasonal affective disorder, and actually seasonal affective disorder is a mood disorder, where the winter seasonal affective disorder is associated with depressive symptoms, as I've just mentioned, so sadness, fatigue, sleeping, excessive sleepiness, etc. And then we have the less commonly known seasonal affective disorder that occurs in summer, which is called the summer affective disorder, and in that instance it's associated with the opposite symptoms, so almost a mania, getting more excited unnecessarily about things, losing weight, not eating, not sleeping, so the complete and polar opposite. There is a small section where those symptoms may overlap, where you might get a depressive symptoms in the summer months, but that's very rare. And from the literature and the understanding of the winter, the seasonal affective disorder, it's associated with a lack of sunlight. And the lack of sunlight results in a lack of vitamin D in the body. And that lack of vitamin D results in a lack of melatonin in the body, which is what impacts the development of seasonal affective disorder. And so that is where the cause or the link between the season and the symptoms comes from, Bridget.
I see. And then I can imagine that probably it becomes heightened then, particularly the winter seasonal affective disorder might become heightened already if someone maybe was in a mental and psychological state that was already unhealthy.
Absolutely right, Bridget. So seasonal affective disorder is very common, and there are risk factors for it, or associations for seasonal affective disorder. One of them is somebody who already has a mental health condition, especially if a person has bipolar mood disorder. As I just mentioned earlier, seasonal affective disorder is also a mood disorder. So if somebody has bipolar mood disorder, then they are more likely to have seasonal affective disorder. Also, people who are depressed for other reasons, so they may have cancer, or they may have renal disease, or some other medical condition, makes them more predisposed to seasonal affective disorder as well. Then people who have metabolic medical conditions where they cannot process vitamin D for whatever reason, they have a medical condition that interferes with that vitamin D absorption, they will also be more affected by or more at risk of developing seasonal affective disorder. And then individuals who, just in general, people who have other medical conditions are more at risk. And women as well. The science says that more women develop seasonal affective disorder than males do, and it usually starts to show symptoms in the late teen years and early adulthood. That's when somebody may notice that they have seasonal affective disorder.
Interesting. And is there any particular science that points us to why women? Is it something that maybe is hormone related in that case?
There's many postulates in the literature, Bridget, and it may, yes, you're right, it may be related to the hormonal components that's different in females to males. It may also be associated with the bone mass density. Females have less bone mass density than males do, and vitamin D is impacts that bone mass density. So it is some aspects of female physiology that makes women more predisposed to seasonal affective disorder, yes.
Interesting, very, very interesting. And are they? You mentioned that one could start seeing signs of this around puberty, and with so much that's going on already around puberty, then I wonder if there's a lot of people that are misdiagnosed, or perhaps the diagnosis is missed at an early stage, and could that have sort of longer lasting implications that then maybe, I don't know, it evolves from just a seasonal thing to being a year on depressive state, for instance?
Yes, that's absolutely right. Young people and teenagers do have changes in their mood as a result of their development and their growth. And so it is very easily missed by parents, peers, and their teachers that they are suffering from seasonal affective disorder. Often it's brushed off as a mood change or just a hormonal imbalance in a teenager. And seasonal affective disorder is not a disorder that goes away just because the season has gone away. When a person has seasonal affective disorder, it means it's going to come back next winter. And so picking up the signs early and helping the young adults and any adults to recognize the symptoms within themselves and then put in place the necessary treatments even before the season starts is important. So, for example, in South Africa, our winter months generally start from around the end of April until about the end of September, and that's where most of our winter seasonal affective disorder symptoms arise. But if somebody is aware that they have this condition, they may start to put in place some kinds of therapies and treatments already in March, April, to start to manage themselves during the winter months. And it's also important for parents and teachers to be aware of that, because one of the extreme consequences, if left untreated, of seasonal affective disorder is the risk of suicidal thoughts and suicidal action.
It's so, it's interesting. I keep saying that if depression as a subject, I think a lot of people don't comprehend, we don't grasp, we don't understand unless you've had a first-hand journey or you've walked alongside somebody who's been diagnosed as depression. And then when it gets to, even nuanced diagnoses like this, it becomes even more complicated. Because then I think sometimes you'll hear from, for instance, expats, South Africans who live in Europe or the US, where these are long winters and these very dark grey winters, where people have actually expressed that they struggle through those seasons, but they've not had the vocabulary to pinpoint exactly what it is. But they do acknowledge that, no, man, something is not right with me mentally, emotionally, and otherwise for these 4 or 5 months of the year.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And in fact, you raise a significant point, Bridget, because the further away from the equator that you live, so the middle of the earth, the longer your winters are. And we see that people who live in Northern Europe and the southern tips of Africa and South America have the highest rates of seasonal affective disorder because the winters are longer and the exposure to the sun is significantly less. And so these geographical differences are also what plays a part in somebody recognizing that they have seasonal affective disorder, or for mental health care practitioners to recognize seasonal affective disorder as significant for the geography that they are in, and to diagnose that condition. And I think the most important part about seasonal affective disorder is raising awareness amongst the communities that we live and work in, that this is a real diagnosis that has significant consequences for an individual, and that we must create an awareness and support structure for people who are suffering from seasonal affective disorder or SAD.
I want to take a quick pause here just for the headline news and then come back on the other side, Dr. Karisha, and maybe explore what support looks like for individuals that do suffer from a seasonal affective disorder, and of course some of the treatment plans that people maybe can approach their medical practitioners with and get further information and guidance around. It's just gone 2:30. Daneo is standing by.
Thank you very much, Bridget. Good afternoon. Let's take a look at the headlines at 2:30. The Minister of Higher Education and Training, Science and Innovation, Blade Nzimande, says SETAs have made a significant contribution in promoting employment. In other news, the Tourism Deputy Minister Fish Mahlalela says the tourism sector is bouncing back to pre-COVID-19 levels. And the US has highlighted in its annual country report for 2023 what it says are significant human rights problems in Bangladesh. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
Freedom Month on SAFM. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It's just gone 2:30 as we approach the final half an hour of the show. We are in conversation with Dr. Karisha Quarry, who is the operations manager for the clinical directorate within Life Healthcare Group. And of course, she's been helping us understand seasonal affective disorder. And let's talk now around, some of the potential treatment that one could deploy in helping get a SAD under control or help manage, this period when it does happen. And you touched a little bit about preemptively also, yes, implementing some kind of plan the months leading up to winter.
Yes, Bridget. So thank you. The first step, I think, is having an awareness of yourself, your family history of mental health conditions, and understanding what your risk is of the development of seasonal affective disorder. And this requires that we all have discussions in our community groups, in our families, about what mood disorders are, what depression is, what anxiety is, what seasonal affective disorder is, and helping each other to recognize symptoms within each other and seeking professional help when we feel that we may meet the criteria for having SAD. We must deconstruct the stigma that is around mental health and be able to talk about these things. And I think that's the first step in getting treatment in your community. Also to acknowledge that in South Africa, as a southern country away from the equator and in the southern tip of Africa, we are at risk of SAD because of our winter period being long winters with short days, and we do have nutritional vitamin D deficiency, so we are in a risk area for the development of seasonal affective disorder. So that awareness is also the first step in the treatment. So some of the actual treatments that can be applied. We have light therapy, which means that you can have a artificial light source that your doctor or psychologist will be able to provide you with. And generally, it's almost like a box that has a UV light that you would sit in front of for about 30 or 45 minutes a day, usually in the beginning of the day, and that box will transmit light onto your skin, and that will activate, that's what we call phototherapy, and that is one of the treatment options for SAD. The next is psychotherapy, which is more commonly known as counseling. This is where you talk through your symptoms, your frustrations, your cravings with somebody, and it's important that you identify a healthcare practitioner who has experience in dealing with mood disorders and specifically with seasonal affective disorder. Then the other treatment that can be used is antidepressant medication. So the medication that we use for other depressive diagnoses can also be used for seasonal affective disorder. And then vitamin D, either vitamin D that comes from supplements or supplement tablets that you can get at your pharmacy or chemist can be taken, or you can get vitamin D from food sources. Those food sources include your oily fish like salmon and sardines, as well as egg yolk, liver, and red meat. Those can help to increase your vitamin D levels. And these are just some of the known treatments that can be applied to somebody who is suffering from seasonal affective disorder.
And when we speak of support, Dr. Karisha, what do we do? Like, I mean, you can hear anytime I engage conversations around mental health, even us as broadcasters, you're trying very much in understanding, the proper protocols and the right languaging and understanding the various concepts. Also very much measured in how we phrase and say things, acutely aware of the sensibilities around it. And given that I'm not in isolation, in households, people struggle to understand when a family member has been diagnosed with depression. In communities of color, you and I's communities, we struggle to understand what do these mental issues actually mean. So then from that perspective, how do we then support family and community members?
Thank you, and that's an amazing question, because the answer is to acknowledge that this is a real problem, and to not brush off an individual who wants to reach out and feels that they have seasonal affective disorder, especially not in our teenagers. We don't want to start to create a stigma in our teenagers about brushing off mental health issues. We want to create an environment of psychological safety where individuals can talk freely without judgment and in a safe, comforting environment about what they are experiencing. Every human being simply wants to feel validated in what they are feeling, and providing that in the family context or in your friendship circle is really important to do that. So I think the first thing is just listening to somebody who may have these symptoms. The second thing is to observe your family members and your friends and colleagues for these symptoms, because they might not have an awareness of seasonal affective disorder. So if you notice your colleague at work is overeating or not being as productive because they're suffering from extreme fatigue or not or oversleeping, then you need to be able to feel comfortable enough to have that conversation about, do you think you may have seasonal affective disorder? Here's what it's about. So you actually noticing the symptoms in somebody else and helping to direct them to a counselor or a program at work or school that may assist them. So that's something else that we can do. And then I think also if you recognize that somebody may be at the extreme of seasonal affective disorder, where they're not able to get up to go to work, or they are overeating to an extreme, or they are actually having suicidal thoughts and actions, then we definitely need to have some kind of intervention where a mental health practitioner needs to be involved in the further care and treatment of that individual. But the most important part about supporting anybody who has a mental health condition is to understand that person's experience is valid for them, and to allow them to express themselves in a way that they feel safe to do so, and to provide them with a referral or information about where they can go for further help.
Dr. Karisha, we appreciated the time with you and obviously for sharing your professional perspective as a medical doctor. That was Dr. Karisha Quarry taking some time out from her busy schedule to help us understand seasonal affective disorder. So if you think you take some of the symptoms that she mentioned in this conversation, perhaps you can seek a further consult with your medical practitioner who can then refer you to a psychologist, or you can just make an appointment yourself and go ventilate what you might be feeling, what you might be experiencing, because maybe you are somebody who's experiencing a seasonal affective disorder, and you can be in a position to get some help to help you, assist you get through this period of winter and better manage everything that you're going through and everything that you're feeling in the years to come. Prevention is always very much better than cure, and calling a thing so that you know what you're dealing with, is the best thing that you can do for yourself. It's fast approaching 22 at 3 o'clock. We're going to take a quick pause here. Ashraf is going to come through and let us know what's coming up today, what's on the national pulse, and then, of course, we're going to wrap up the show with Carol Reed, who is the interim CEO of Reed, and they are an educational trust, and they're joining the international literacy community in celebrating Word Book Day. So it's Word Book Day that's happening on the 24th, which is tomorrow, 24th of April. And they've decided to partner up with the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital for their initiative this year. And of course, she will tell us a bit more about that. And then we're going to wrap up the show beautifully. I think we've got one or two voice notes also from our earlier conversation around gun safe zones or safety corridors with gun-free SA, and the conversation on the table was around their proposal for a bulletproof park. Yes, if you missed the conversation, they're proposing a literal bulletproof dome, like a square dome in the community of Mitchell's Plain. It's a level 8 bulletproof square dome that has all the safety and security features contained inside, panic buttons, responsive units, etc., etc., etc. And they sort of gauging that it will cost around 10 million just for one unit that could comfortably fit between 24 to 28 children at any given time. And then the question was, whether or not as communities, especially communities that are plagued by gun violence, we should all collectively come together and come to some kind of understanding from all sides, gang leaders, gang bosses, community leaders, organizational leaders, and maybe create safety zones, which is also something that in a lot of gun-plagued communities have sort of been already implemented around schools and places where children engage, where all parties agree for the betterment of the community that they're going to take it upon themselves to ensure that those areas are safe and free of stray bullets, so that children can just be children. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. We're still taking your comments on that.
The Saturday play.
I want to finish you. What the hell are you doing? Are you crazy? This is a bloody German car. Catch me, Samson Kumalo, on the Saturday play. Why the hell they still make James Bond movies puzzles me.
Oh, Stans. Gordon told me it was 80.
Oh, man, that guy's a fruitcake. Too colorful to handle a gun.
Who? Stans.
Bond. James Bond.
Catch the Saturday play between 9 and 10 p.m. Only on SAFM.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Hi, Ashraf.
Hi, how's it?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, fine. Sounds like a job interview.
It does, right? No, but it's in the response. Like, it's like, I'm fine. Okay, but he's fine. He says it's fine. Nothing more, nothing less. What's coming up today?
Tell you what, Zimbabweans, those informal traders, let's call them hawkers, street vendors, they're not fine because they've been resisting trading in that new currency called ZiG.
Yes.
Right? And the story is that they're getting beaten up by the powers that be for not accepting the ZIG. So we'll talk about that just now.
Yeah.
Need to listen to that's coming up first up. Then Tessa Dooms, who has lots of thoughts about South Africa politically, and she'll comment about the relationship between a dysfunctional state and a dysfunctional economy. And I'm absolutely looking forward to listening to that. And for some strange reason, the economy is an issue we're focusing on today, unintentionally. But South Africa now has overtaken the other countries to be Africa's number one economy again. But the question there is, something to celebrate or not? All of that on the National Pulse, 3 to 6.
I mean, very interesting. And if we double back to the ZIG story, because it's trading better than the ZAR.
It is, but I mean, the ZAR, they use dollars. But I believe even this currency has been devalued like 30-40% in a matter of days. And that's
really? Because it kicked off so strong because of that whole weight, the gold being weighted against it. Now, tell me, why are the informal traders not wanting to...
Well, I don't know because I haven't asked them. And they haven't told me anything, and they haven't tweeted it either. No, my guess, and we'll find out, but my guess is because of that. If the currency is devalued or devaluing, so they give you something that's worth 10 Rand today, and if 10 Rand becomes 9 Rand tomorrow,
I guess, right?
That's my sense.
Very interesting, because, I mean, there seem to be all kinds of excitement from even our very own analysts, financial analysts, around this ZIG. When I remember following the story last week and the week before, even our own financial analysts were saying, actually, this currency could work. It could be the positive thing that Zim needs if they just maintain all the checks and balances.
Well, we'll find out. The problem with the currency, you can name it what you want. What impact does it have on the broader economy? So, in fact, we'll talk about the issue of the broader Zimbabwean economy as well on the show. Lots to talk about.
Lots to talk about. That's
I hope
coming
you're
up.
going to be tuned in and not switched off when you leave here.
No. I'm actually going to be tuned in.
We have this tracking device now to make sure who listens to us here.
I will be tuned in. You can quiz me tomorrow. Ashraf is coming through between 3 and 6 o'clock today. Let's take a quick break and then we'll be back and wrap it up.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Living your best life on the Full Circle.
I mean, it would be such a pity if the ZIG started off so strong and then, the global forces band together to sort of devalue it at such rapid rates, right? Analysts were so positive. They were so positive and so encouraging. Even our very own analysts were very encouraging around the ZIG. And in fact, a lot of people saying that it needed to get into circulation in Zimbabwe quick, fast, and in a hurry. Anyway, let's wrap up our side of the conversation with Carol Reid, who's the interim CEO of Reid, and the Reid Educational Trust will be joining the rest of the international literacy community in celebrating Word Book Day tomorrow, the 24th of April, and they're sharing the joys of reading with children currently under clinical care at the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. How are you doing this afternoon, Carol?
Afternoon, Bridget. I'm very well, thanks, and you?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time. All right. Can we get some context? Word Book Day. I mean, I've heard of World Book Day. I haven't heard of Word Book Day, and admittedly, I don't know every great day that there is in the world. Give us some context on this one.
So I think you might have a typing error on your side. It is, in fact, World Book Day.
They owe me 2 pies now. Thank you very much, Carol.
It's, as you know, Bridget, it's a UNESCO Day. And it really is just to encourage literacy and books and reading. It's also, in fact, World Copyright Day. So it's to encourage that all obviously within the legalized framework of copyright of the material.
And you're doing something very exciting this year for World Book Day. You've teamed up with the Nelson Mandela Children's Home for a reading sort of campaign within the confines of hospital.
Absolutely. So we have some amazing staff at Reed, which I think you probably know is the oldest literacy NPO in the country. And we have amazing people who we normally go out to schools and do reading and handing out books, etc., because we really believe that every child deserves to have a book and they should have one. And this year we just decided not to take it to schools, but rather to take it to children who were probably in a far worse position than any person or child is in school today because he's healthy, he or she.
Yeah.
So it was just around making sure they each have a book of their own. We obviously couldn't go into any wards that were, troublesome in a certain respect.
Yeah.
We went into 4 wards, gave each child a book. There were about 100 children in total. And we had professional readers who then read to them for the morning, and we finished about half an hour ago or so.
Oh, lovely. So you guys were thick in the thick of things this afternoon.
Absolutely.
I love it. And it's important, I think, from just the context of who we are as South Africans and the makeup of our society, to get our young people reading and get them sort of really just enthralled in the world of stories and the fantasy of story.
Absolutely, and not only that, just from an education aspect. One of the reasons we also went to Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital is because of his comment of education as being the most powerful weapon you could use to change the world. And you need the literacy to be able to do that. So I think we can all remember when we were children that absolute joy and feeling excitement when you opened up a new book for the first time. And we really want children to have that joy, that excitement, because it's actually going to make them more productive leaders of society and an improved economy in the long run.
Absolutely. And now tell us, we love a feel-good moment. You guys, I'm presuming you're probably still within the precinct of the hospital. There must have been great fanfare, even just amongst the patients, or as the hospital would call them, the clients of the hospital, around today's World Book Day events.
I think everybody is still on a high. It was amazing. The staff at the hospital were amazing. The children were amazing. And it was a wonderful day.
I love it. By way of South Africans sort of getting involved, with World Book Day tomorrow, you mentioned that, for instance, with yourself and your team, you had professional readers come through today for today's initiative. But there's plenty of opportunity for us in our little own pockets and corners to initiate something that sort of helps magnify this message around world literacy.
Somebody asked me that exact question this morning, and I'm going to give you the same answer.
Okay.
Which is, find a child who doesn't own a book and give him or her their own book. I think the power of a book, the excitement, the world that you can disappear into, it makes such an impact on a child. And I really think every one of our children in this country deserves to own at least one book that they can use in their literacy journey.
Absolutely. And, when you talk about finding a child that doesn't own a book, it just got me thinking about, we had a conversation a few weeks ago about the threat to our public libraries in South Africa, particularly in communities that need them the most.
That is such a big topic, Bridget. Can keep us busy for the afternoon. But yes, there's a major threat to public libraries and even to school libraries. It's not just the public libraries. There is, of course, always the answer that you can go the route of a digital solution, but it's not quite the same.
No, it's not. As someone who believes in turning a page, I completely agree with you that it's not quite the same indeed. Now, are we going to be rolling out more sort of campaigns and initiatives just to extend the messaging of World Book Day from the Reed Trust?
Yes, we are. We've got some super ideas, and we'll certainly fill you in on them. They're not yet ready for rolling out, but we want to be in a position where literacy and books are taken seriously every day of the year, not the 24th of April every year.
Absolutely. Carol, we thank you so much for the good work that you and the team have done today. That was Carol, the interim CEO of Read. Oh, by the way, before we let you go, is there a way for our listeners to also plug in to the work, whether by way of coming and pulling together to help capacitate you, maybe add more resources? Is there anything that the Read Educational Trust is in need of or would like assistance with?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, certain of our donors went along today to assist with the handing out and etc. So it wasn't only our people.
Mm-hmm.
So they can go into our social media, which I can't exactly tell you what it's called, but it's the Read Instagram. I'm sure they'll find it.
Awesome.
But I can send it to you. But yes, we always accept any help that is offered.
Awesome stuff. Carol Reid, we appreciate you. That was Carol Reid, the interim CEO of Read, the Read Educational Trust. And of course, tomorrow is World Book Day. And you guys just let me keep on going word for the last 45 minutes. Tomorrow is World Book Day on the 24th of April. And as you heard, Carol, if you know of a child that doesn't own a book of their own, and perhaps you do have a book that is age appropriate, or you are in a position where you can gift them a book set. It might seem boring, a gift, you know how kids will roll their eyes at books, but trust me, they will appreciate it, right? A beautiful book set, all beautifully ribboned up and tied up and delivered to your neighbor or a children's center or maybe an ECD center, or a children's home. A beautiful gift goes a long way towards opening up the imagination and expanding their horizons and opening them up to a world beyond just the four walls at which they live, right? And really, once you open and spark a child's imagination, the possibilities are infinite as to where that goes. That is it from us on our end. We are going to now hand you over to Ashraf Gada and his team. They're going to keep you company until 6 o'clock. Lots on the conversation agenda for them as well. We will see you tomorrow on The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, 1 until 3 on SAFM. The conversation does continue on our social media platforms, and you can also find me on Instagram as well as X at Bridget Masinga. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again.
Kubalulekile uzame zonke indlela zokujabulisa isinqandamathe sakho. Kubalulekile uzame konke okusemandle ukuthi sijabule islavithi sakho. Ingozi enkulu ukuthi kufike umuntu ezama ukwenza into ongayenzi wena. Hayi uzosola ubani, sebamchamile sebamthathile kuwe. Awuthi ukunyusa amasokisi uzoyazi lento ayifunayo. Mnike yona, mnike yona, uyayazi lento ayifunayo. Mnike yona, mnike yona, umengayitholi kuwe uzohambe ifuna. Angeke kusaba mnandi